cleaning out the office today, dusting, rearranging toys, getting rid of things, getting things ready to sell at the next toy show I go to. Also going through old art, consolidating art supplies, all that kind of stuff. And I came upon a big pile of papers that I realized are old portfolio pieces. You used to have to print things out. Now you could bring it digitally or whatever, but there was also a time when I was bringing it bigger and then I was bringing it smaller. And these are all pieces that I either have rotated out of it, my portfolio that is, or that I just don't need physical copies of anymore, so I'm going to get rid of, but I figured I'd go through them and give you my thoughts. Okay, so this is from my smaller portfolio, and these are basically color copies. This was the cover of a comic I did for a place called VM Site, and it was, you know, industrial comic, or whatever you want to call it, advertising their computer stuff. I don't even know what it was, virtual something. This is a copy of a pinup I did for a comic called Hero Envy in the trade paperback. These are pages from a comic I never printed. I actually never inked it either. These are just pencils, called The Null Set. It's a superhero team, sort of a comedy superhero team. I think there's probably a bunch of these in here. Yeah. All right, I'll just skip through some of those. And then this is a page from an actual, like, what do you call it, a tryout script for Radical Entertainment, which I don't know if they're still around, but they were big-ish for a few years in the small press game, and they were big in doing like projects that then became movies. But anyway, this was for some vampire book, and she's like a vampire hunter or whatever. So I was following the script from that, and again, this is just tight pencils. There's a cover of Bunko Man. This is a full comic I did. I sort of co-wrote it. They gave me the plot, but they didn't, you know, I had to do a lot of the editing and fixing. So, and it was, I think it was about 12 or 13 pages, the color cover. And I did pretty much everything except for, like, you know, the main writing. And I don't know what they did with that. Here are some pages I did of Blue Beetle and Booster Gold, the kind of the classic style. And this was from a script from a guy who never paid me. And it was supposed to be a gift. And the whole thing, it was like a parody of How I Met Your Mother. And so it's Booster in the past talking about to his kids how he met his mother. There's a big splash page I did. And this was a thing where there was a couple artists working on it. I was doing inks, no color. I think I did grayscale on some of the other pages. But it never... I was supposed to either get paid and or it was going to be given to Dan Jurgens, the creator of Booster Gold, as sort of a gift since the book had gotten canceled. And so I was fine with one or both of those things, and neither one happened. This is another page from the Null Set. This was like, I think, a big splash first page. More Null Set pages. Again, these are all just tight pencils. This is larger. This was another sample script I did. I think it was from the New 52, and that's Elongated Man and Faust. And this is pencils, but not very tight pencils, so I'm not sure why I have this, what I was showing them that for. Oh, there's a big version of the Bernie Madoff Bunko Man thing. More large pages from the Null Set. Let me... These are all large pages of the Null Set. Boop, boop. That was a pinup from a book called Ace Face, The Mod with the Metal Arms. In the collected version, I think that was in France, this pinup was in there, and that's the main character and some other characters from that universe, and these are all my high school characters, because it was a friend of mine, and he said, hey, why not do a pinup of my characters and your old high school characters? This was a team called The Staff, which was a non-comedic superhero team. It was sort of superhero military. My buddy Frank and I sort of worked on that together, although, you know, I would say we never put an issue out. We worked on it together, and it never went anywhere. Then later I resurrected the idea, and it was one of a few stories in some collected, you know, fanzine sort of things that I put out later. These are color pages from a book I was paid to do, and it was called something Boat. Oh man, I can't remember what it was called. It was like 40 color pages that I had to do the whole thing. And I cannot remember what it was called. Legends of the Bay. Legends of the Bay. And it's sort of like a young adult thing. There's Scholastic partnered with Rambin Publishing? No, I forget who it was. Scholastic partnered with somebody. And that's what these pages are for. And I actually did a few books for them. I did 2 big 40-page books, and then I did one smaller, younger kid book, and then I did some other stuff. This was a story my friend wrote that... no, I'm sorry. This was a story that was going to go in a collection. what do you call those
I
things?
stopped the camera and I'm sitting here racking my brains and I can't think of the word, for a collage of stories. They do it with movies too, and books. When several writers put in their own story, they might be thematic, they might not. And you call this a blank. I'm working on, anthology. I was going to say, I put a piece in the anthology for the hundreds, and that's what it's called, as I went to say it. So thank you, the 100s, saving me once
This
again.
is for an anthology that my friend was doing, and I don't remember if the theme had to do with poop or not. I know my story was basically about a superhero, like a Superman type guy that had to go to the bathroom and he kept getting distracted. That was sort of my story. But the whole thing fell apart before I even finished it, so I did a few pages and that was that. More Legends of the Bay stuff. Oh, this was a client job I had a long time ago. This is a guy's likeness and he wanted to be Wolverine fighting Venom. He did this triptych, and yeah, so there's that. More copies of that same vampire thing. More pages from the superhero that has to go to the bathroom story, so you can see I'm really gonna go. This is from a really long time ago. This was gotta be 10 years ago, and you can kind of tell that I didn't know how to format a comic page at all. There's no gutters on the and the outside has no print or whatever. Like, I sort of did 11 by 17 and filled every square inch of it. And I was working at an animation company, and a few of us all wrote one-page scripts and traded them off with each other. And this was the script I got, which was basically Puck and Wolverine at a bar. They get into a fight, and yeah, there you go. But it was a lot of information to communicate. I don't know if it was the script or me or what, but I remember this taking me forever. Again, tight pencils, but it's barely readable. And this right here, it looks like Puck broke his head. It's just like, it's in the middle of his chest. He killed himself doing that. So, and this motorcycle was probably the hardest thing to draw on the whole thing. And I just used heavy photo reference. That's the cover for the Legends of the Bay. This was another... Okay, this was the first sample pages I brought to a convention to show, like, real comic people. I did a 3-page Hulk story and a 3-page Hellblazer story, my own script, and this, again, was many years ago, and I didn't get great feedback on it. Tight pencils, again. I tend to like to draw things in diners. That's the go-to for me. And so I was trying to show a conversation and a little bit of action, and there's that Hulk is kind of weird looking. And also I got critique because, I guess it was a little bit further, more than 3 pages, because there's another page after this. I got critique here because I have him calmly turning to the Hulk, but my idea was that he was like holding it back, almost like in the movie, which they came out later, where it's like, I'm always angry. But I guess you shouldn't be... Here's the tip. If you're writing scripts for samples, just go with the cliches. Don't try to make up subtle new differences, because they're like, that's not how the Hulk works. They're like, well, in my story he does. What story? The 5 pages I wrote to show sample pencils? I'm an idiot. Michelangelo and Clunk, the cat. This is my first round of Ninja Turtle sample pages. I did not get a job. I did get good reviews from Jim Lawson and Peter Laird and a few other people, but they weren't hiring and or were just letting me down easy. Oh, these are the Hellblazer pages I was talking about. I had Neil Adams look at these, actually, and he basically nicely was like, you're never going to work on Batman, kid, because it's like way too cartoony and weird. I still kind of like this panel, how full it is. You know, that's bizarre looking, but, you know, regardless. This page, actually, it is super cartoony, he's right, but I do like a lot of the shading stuff I did here with the fire and everything. Super tight pencil, super heavy shading. Yeah, this page actually isn't terribly bad in terms of storytelling. It's just a lot of weird anatomy stuff going on. These are pages from Bunko Man, where he's inhaling chemicals that give him his powers, which don't really make sense. Like any superhero origin makes sense. And here he is punching out Bernie Madoff. You can tell this was a few years ago. At the time, it was timely. And more Bunko Man, more Bunko Man, more Bunko Man. Lee Richards, I would punch you too. Look at that, more Bunko Man. What do you think? More. You guessed it. I think that's the second to last page. Here's some more Null Set, and that is supposed to look like Guy Gardner. This was a page I did for somebody. It was like a wedding, either invitation or gift, but basically, like, you know, it's a whole little gimmick about them. And, oh, it was a fembot, but we love each other. And Mike Myers as Austin Powers marries us. And this is another Turtle sample page I did a while back. And this is more from that 52 page. I know I did a couple, like 4, 5, or 6 pages of actual tape pencils. So I don't know why I have these printouts of these loose pencils, but yeah. Anyway, I'm throwing all that out.
Not to worry, I definitely have digital copies somewhere.